Okay, so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
First of all, my name is Yuval. I'm from BGU Radio, and I'm very excited to hear from you. We are here in the DDD conference. So tell me, what do you do?
I'm a faculty member in the Zuckerberg Institute for Water Research. I'm in the Desalination and Water Treatment Department, and I've been working in water for almost 50 years. I started in industry in the U.S. in the late 70s, working for a company that made water treatment chemicals.
Mm.
And while there, I came across the work of Professor David Chasson from the Technion and wrote to him, and he agreed to take me on as a doctoral student. And essentially, I started in the Technion in the chemical engineering department, where I got my doctorate, working on membranes that are used for treating water, in particular desalination membranes, and the issues that need to be addressed so that they can work properly. And in my doctoral research, it was on problems of scaling, mineral scale that can deposit on the membranes and interfere with their operation. And off and on, I've worked on that same topic ever since. For the first 10 years after I finished my doctorate, I was working in industry, still with membranes, and then I was recruited to the desalination group at BGU University by Professor Ora Kedem in the late 90s. And I've been at the university ever since.
Wow.
Most of my work has been on using membranes for water treatment, various kinds of membranes for various kinds of problems, mostly on desalination. And in particular, one of the things that has been a recurring challenge that I've been working on is when you desalinate water, part of the water is recovered as product, but part of the water remains behind with the rejected salts as a concentrate.
Right.
And that concentrate is an environmental challenge. In seawater desalination, when there's a large, huge body of water, seawater, outside the plant, then if you pump the brine out far enough and you distribute it far enough in a planned and effective way, then you can dispose of the brine into the sea. But when you have inland desalination, or if you have industrial plants that don't have access, then you have to find another way of dealing with the concentrate. So one way is to try to extract more water from the concentrate and concentrate it even further. Another can be to try to extract minerals that might be useful from the concentrate. And one of my colleagues here, Professor O'Day-Near, is working on that. There's various ways of doing it, but they all require the additional process development and engineering to do. One of the processes that we've been working with for a number of years and still working on is to try to enhance evaporation. So instead of a huge evaporation pond that could take a very large area, hang up vertical surfaces, wet those surfaces like you would a clothesline. But instead of allowing it to dry out, you keep wetting it again and again and again so that it can evaporate the brine, the water from the brine. This is presently being looked into in dealing with the leachate from landfills in the U.S. Using this technique. Another thing that can be done is, as I said, to recover more water. And we have a project right now where we're doing this at the Granot desalination plant, which is run by Makorot, where they are desalinating groundwater. That is, by doing this, they're able to protect the aquifer, and they have a large amount of brine. And what we're doing is taking a system that desalinates by salts essentially, when they dissolve in water, form charged particles, and they're called ions. And if you apply an electric field, you can cause those ions to migrate towards the electrodes from your electric field. And if you have membranes that pass those ions, are called ion exchange membranes, then you can use the field to suck the ions out and then have good water where the ions were before. And then the ions that get sucked out go into a separate solution of a concentrate that you can then treat. So this is what we're doing there, but we're doing it in a way that we suck out the ions like sodium and chloride, but we don't suck out the what are called hardness ions, which are beneficial, especially for agriculture, calcium and magnesium. We don't suck those out, and then that can be recombined with the other product, so you can get a product that's not just good for drinking water, but can also be good for agriculture. And we have another project like that also, where in fact, I'll be talking about it at the DDD conference. I won't, my student will, Ofer Guy, that since the plants need calcium and magnesium, there's brackish water under the Negev. And that brackish water, while it's good for some crops as is, for high-value crops like strawberries or lettuce, that water cannot be used as is. But if you desalinate it, for example, with reverse osmosis, you take out all the ions. But the crops need the calcium and the magnesium. So again, here we're also using this technique of what's called electrodialysis, an electric field that pulls out the ions. But we use special membranes that pull out the problematic ions, the ones that are hard for the crops to deal with, which is sodium and chloride, but leaves in the calcium and magnesium. And in the work that Ofer has been doing and our prior student Ben Cohen has been doing, they've shown that they get significantly improved growth of these high-value crops when you use water that's produced with this particular technique.
Amazing.
So by essentially adapting processes that have been around for a while, but using them in a new way or in a new context, we find ways to provide additional benefit. Of course, on a national level, Israel could not today maintain itself without the large-scale, massive desalination plants that we have, many of which are some of the largest of their kind in the world, and today are providing 70 to 75% of our drinking water.
Wow.
And at this conference, it was also talked about the fact that with that kind of potential, this could also be an opening for enhancing and making much closer the regional cooperation between the countries in the region, between Israel and Jordan and Egypt, and perhaps going forward, Syria as well. This was talked about in the talk given by the folks from EcoPeace, in which they actually did a study about 8 years ago about this initiative of having Israel trade water with its neighbors, for example, Jordan, in exchange for energy, because Jordan has a large landmass. It's ideal for deploying solar panels to generate large amounts of electricity so that Jordan could be supplying Israel with part of its energy needs, because Israel cannot supply its own just from what we have in our own area. And Israel could supply Jordan with much larger share of its water needs. So it's a win-win.
Wow.
And this has only been made possible by the technological developments that have been made, including in the area of desalination, in which Israel has become a world leader.
Wow. That sounds so interesting and sound like a life mission, right? Your life mission.
For many of us, yes. I mean, when I decided, after having volunteered as a junior high and high school teacher in the Otef Az in the Gaza envelope, in the year after the Yom Kippur War, that was the year that I decided ultimately my home would be here. And when I started to think, while I still lived in the States, well, what can I do here that's helpful and of value? Immediately my thoughts turned to water. And so water has pretty much been what I've dealt with ever since.
Wow. Wow. So that's like you have a specific experience that made you understand that that's going to be what you're going to do?
Well, because even then, it was clear that Israel had limited water resources, and it was challenged by that. We only have one large body of fresh water, the Sea of Galilee. That's it. The rest of, and it is fed by the rain as well, and by the Jordan, of course. And then the rest of the Israel's water resources was rainfall. But we've seen in the last couple of decades, probably largely driven by climate change, that average rainfalls in Israel have started to drop as much as 20% over what they were in a multi-year average before that. And the population at the same time was growing. So that shortfall had to be made up. And we were fortunate to have political leaders and civil servants in the late 90s, early 2000s who saw that and set up a plan, a large long-term strategic plan, how to address this. And there were certain key figures. One of them was former Knesset member and government minister Bega Shochat, who in the early 2000s, he was both the infrastructure minister and the treasury minister. Well, when the treasury minister and the infrastructure minister are the same person, it allows you to do certain things that otherwise are much harder. Another thing that was important was the formation of the Israel Desalination Society, which was formed in 1997 by people active in both industry and in academia, who served as an important advocacy body that encouraged going in this direction. And this is an organization that I joined and was active in almost from its inception. And they also played a very important role with their conferences, with their advocacy, and so on. And it's active to this day. And in fact, the prize I received was through this society, and that was having its annual meeting this coming Thursday. And then the final part of it was when it was decided to set up a water authority. The Israel Water Authority is a professional, independent body whose policy and decisions are made separate from the political echelon. So essentially, they set up a professional body, and they did this in order to insulate it from immediate or current political trends and pressures, so that it would really be focused on long-term planning. And that has served Israel extremely well.
Yeah. So nowadays, what concerns you the most?
Climate, for sure, because everywhere it's getting hotter, and that getting hotter expresses itself in droughts. It expresses itself in extreme weather events. We already know that in the Gulf, it is impossible, physically dangerous to be outside when the temperatures rise above a certain level. We could be seeing those kind of conditions here in the coming years. There is no way that there's going to be stability for any of us if water scarcity, not just with us, but with our neighbors, with Jordan, with Syria, and so on. If that water scarcity is allowed to continue, it's going to create climate refugees. It's going to create stress. So that has to be addressed. And that can only be addressed by both prevention, which means we have to get off fossil fuels, and by adaptation, getting ready to deal with that. One of the sessions that I just came out from the DDD conference was on how does the healthcare systems respond to the increased stress that's generated by climate. So I think that long term, that is absolutely the most serious challenge we face.
Yeah. Is there anything else you've heard or learned from the DDD conference that you want to share with us that it's important?
I think that one of the really incredible things, one of the most wonderful things about this conference is the way it's brought together so many people from so many different countries, especially from the developing world. And this is a powerful rejoinder to all those who would seek to delegitimize Israel and delegitimize the incredible work that's being done in Israel, both to try to, improve its own society, and we certainly face challenges to do that. But the fact is that Israel is not an island, and Israel is not a fortress state. Israel is a state that wants to integrate with the rest of the world, be able to learn from the rest of the world, and be able to give back to the rest of the world. And I think that this conference is a wonderful example of how that can be done.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for your words. It was very interesting to hear from you.
Thank you.
If there anything else you wanna share, that would be wonderful. But otherwise,
I think we covered it.
thank you
Thank you.
very much.